Rivian just got given $6.6 billion. Now, guys, people have complained about Tesla getting subsidies from the US government in its early days. But I can tell you right now, Tesla never got anything close to these numbers. And Tesla has paid back their loans. What do you think the chances are that Rivian will pay back $6.6 billion with interest? I'd say around about 0. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Now, knowing that Rivian does have a high probability of going bankrupt, I'd still love to own one of their cars. I mean, honestly, the R1S, the R1T, they're nice. They are nice. If you see them in person, they're very nice cars. My dad would love a Rivian. Just so you know, my dad would love an R1T. He'd love it. He's told me many times. So yeah, hey, they're great cars. But let's be honest, guys. They're not selling enough. They're not. They're an America-only company. They sold only to Americans. The market is clearly very not big enough for them. And their sales are just putrid. Now, there's probably going to be some response videos to this. The Electric Viking said Rivian's going to go bankrupt. Let's be honest. Do you really think this isn't a high probable chance of happening? I mean, if Ford and GM are going to struggle to stay around over the next 10 years, what chance does Rivian have? Let's be honest. These guys are racking up enormous debts. They are. And their sales aren't growing. I mean, really, their sales aren't growing. And yet, they've just been given a $6.6 billion loan. Now, I hope the people who lent that money don't have any real plans on ever getting it back. Rivian's Georgia plant got a $6.6 billion lifeline thanks to taxpayers. Now, if Rivian was potentially going to sell, say, 1 million cars a year, right? Something like Mazda numbers. That's what Mazda does. About 1 million cars a year. Then, that would be legit. They'd have a real potential future. But honestly, are Rivian going to sell? Is, 8% of the entire US car market going to be Rivian? Is that what's going to happen? Because Rivian's really only selling cars to Americans and doesn't have any real serious plans on doing anything other than that. I can't really see 8% of the entire US car market being a Rivian vehicle. So Rivian really needs that. And when I say they need that, you can see many CEOs have said this, many automotive executives have said this. You've got to sell at least 500,000 of one model, right? When it comes to an EV to break even. That's an EV. Now that'll change in future. Batteries become cheaper and cheaper. But Rivian have 2 models of vehicle, right? And their sales are still very small. If they add the R2 and the R3 to those numbers, would it be enough to justify this enormous factory? I don't think so. Anyhow, the Department of Energy, their loans program office, has granted Rivian commitment for a loan of $6.6 billion US. The money will be used for the development and construction of an electric vehicle plant in Stanton Springs, Georgia. The government said if finalized, the loan will support construction of a 9 million square foot, 836,000 square meter facility that can make up to 400,000 vehicles annually. It will build the R2 and R3, which the Department of Energy optimistically called mass market EVs. What mass market are they? Maybe they're referring to the US market. Anyway, the pricing of the R2 will start at US $45,000. So it could be mass market. I mean, it's possible. I don't know. My other concern is $6.6 billion for a factory that can make 400,000 vehicles. That doesn't add up. That's a lot of money for a factory that's only making 400,000 vehicles per year. I don't know how that could ever be paid back based on those numbers. That just doesn't stack up to me. Anyway, the government said the funds would support up to 2,000 construction jobs and 7,500 operations jobs by 2030. That's assuming Rivian are still here in 2030. The government said the facility will enable Rivian to reach production volumes that make its products more cost competitive and accelerate access to international markets. I'm not sure which markets they're referring to. I mean, what markets will Rivian sell their vehicles in and be able to compete with Chinese brands? I mean, tell me which ones. Canada? Yeah, I'll give you that. Mexico? I don't think Mexico. I mean, look, the Chinese have already taken over the Mexican car market. We've seen the numbers for that. I just did a video on that last week. I can't see that happening, but that's not even that big of a car market anyway. So really, let's say Canada. Where else? Where else are you going to sell your vehicles? I honestly can't think of anywhere else where they could, compete with Chinese car manufacturers. The cost of manufacturing vehicles in the US is just way too high. It's way too high. They went on to claim that EVs made at the plant could result in an annual fuel consumption savings of approximately 146 million gallons or 553 million litres of gas. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I want Rivian to succeed. Everyone thinks, some people think I don't. I really do, but I'm also a pragmatist. I'm not going to sit here, guys, and just talk out my butthole to you, make things up. Let's be honest. The numbers don't stack up. Rivian's debts are just mounting. They're racking up enormous losses. When do they expect to break even? When are their sales going to start increasing? This company's been around since 2014. They're not a new company. Rivian said the project will be broken up into 2 phases, and the first will result in production beginning in 2028. Holy hell. When Tesla built their factory in China, it took 10 months. During this initial ramp up, the plant will have a capacity of 200,000 units annually. So Rivian might produce 200,000 vehicles in 2028 at this factory. Like I said, it's just not enough to justify $6.6 billion. CEO RJ Scaringe said this alone would enable Rivian to more aggressively scale our US manufacturing footprint for our competitively sized or priced Rivian R2 and R3 vehicles that emphasize both capability and affordability. They're not really that affordable if they start at $45,000 though. He added a robust ecosystem of US companies developing and manufacturing EVs is critical for the US to maintain its long-term leadership in transportation. The US doesn't have any leadership in transportation. That's delusional. Even Americans know that now. Come on. RJ, I like RJ, but he's talking, this is blowing smoke. The loan apparently isn't necessarily set in stone. Trump administration might try to kill it dead. Who knows? Rivian previously tapped the brakes, though, on the facility and announced the R2 would initially be built at their plant in Normal, Illinois. That was right after Elon Musk suggested that's what they should do. At the time, Rivian noted using their existing facility would enable the crossover to be launched sooner and would provide over $2.25 billion in savings. Clearly, $2.25 billion in savings is not on the cards anymore.